This is my first ever minimum percent run in Tears of the Kingdom, and I got the idea from a Redditor asking what was the lowest possible percentage completion rate to still beat the game. I estimated it would be less than 2.5%. I left GSI with no paraglider and stopped here at this island in the Hyrule Archipelago. Grabbed 3 fairies. I knew I would need 3 fairies if I was not going to get the paraglider. I had 2 rockets, so I grabbed the rockets as well, figuring they will come in handy for some of the fights, especially the Phanton Ganon fight. And then head back to the Temple of Time and do a recall launch with 2 wings from right here, with the goal of getting to Hyrule Castle. The biggest challenge with this run is not the 4 hearts, it is not a single wheel of stamina, it is not the lack of inventory space. I've beat the game with all of those limitations. The real problem is the lack of sun reliance to make sunny food to recover. So you really have to be on your A game and not get hit, or get hit as few times as possible. I only have 3 meals that can recover Gloom damage, and that is really where the biggest challenge is. If you do it without the paraglider, it is an additional challenge, but the fairies make that trivial, to be honest. I had cooked some stamina meals while on GSI, so I was able to use those to get out of the current from the castle moat and then get on our way. This is where I expected to use the first fairy, but I did try to grab the wall. I was unsuccessful and I did not reload the save to try again. I was fine, that's why I got the fairies. These keys are going to be very important, especially these electric eyeballs. You'll see why later. I decided to try and fight the Lynel the first time. I'm figuring it's going to take quite some time because I do have very low level weapons. We're talking about 10 damage weapons. I gave up. It was taking too long. I'd have to be perfect, so I moved on. I really wanted to kill the ice likes right here because they drop shields in the chest. Unfortunately, I have 10 damage weapons, and so that's not going to work. It wouldn't make any sense. And so I decided to just keep pushing forward, use recall, get down safely. In my head, I was going to use the electric keys wings on weapons to disarm the black Lizalfos and pick up some bows. I would also be able to easily kill the silver Lizalfos. And I wanted to make sure I got some choo-choos so I could convert them to ice choo-choos. And this way I can freeze enemies and get a 3x damage boost whenever I hit those frozen enemies. So far things are going as planned in the run and haven't had to reload a save. I'm feeling pretty good. Not having the paraglider has not been a problem so far. So pushing ahead, making sure that I get those horns, and then we're going to go into these weapon cache areas to pick up the mighty version of these weapons. On this first attempt, I built my usual plane that I build whenever I'm coming down here, because I avoid the Gloom spawn, aka the Gloom hands that are below us. I use the ice keys eyes to freeze the silver Moblin. I do not intend to kill him, even though he drops a royal bow. I just want to make sure I stay alive, and then we need to break this wall and get the 10 bombs that are in the chest. I didn't plan on killing the silver bokoblin. I just wanted to get his royal broadsword, and then I also easily deal with the Gibdos, just fire arrows to the face with the royal bow, and then jump down and use the second fairy. So I have 1 fairy left, and I need that fairy to enter the army fight. And so now here's the first attempt going into the army. I have never done this fight without a paraglider. I love using a rocket shield, flying into the air and then just spamming bombs or gems on these guys. So this is going to be an interesting challenge. I decided the first strategy I'm going to try is just throw bombs. Of course, I need to be very careful of the blast radius. I'm using the electric key swing on a spear because I want to try and disarm the enemies and force them to have to run back and pick up weapons. Sometimes I might be able to grab the weapons. At least that's what's going through my head with the strategy. There's obviously a lot of running around. You have to be very careful when you slow down. The archers aren't necessarily a problem if you keep moving and they don't chase you down. The problem is, you know, when these mobs are coming around. And of course, I kill myself. I die a few more times and decide to try a different strategy. Let's spin to win and get that ground pound and knock the enemies over, buying us some time to create some distance. The strategy works out and I'm able to defeat the Moblin section of the army, and we're now moving forward. There will be fewer enemies in the rest of the wave, so I feel good that we finally have gotten past this, and now let's see what happens with the Lizalfos. My biggest concern with these guys is their range attacks, especially spitting. They all have halberd type weapons, so I make sure to have the same thing. I use my Ice Key Swing fused to a Mighty Zonite Spear and make sure I take out these archers as quickly as possible while avoiding the guys that are rushing me. And I'm able to get rid of them fairly easily, so we move on to the Gibdos. I was never worried about the Gibdos. I think they're some of the easiest enemies in the game from the first time that I played in a blind playthrough with my kids. Royal Bow, Fire Fruit, pretty much one-shots all of them. Guess what? The Gibdos actually killed me. I wasn't paying attention to the jumping guys. Now that I've been humbled by the Gibdos, it's time for the Moblins, which I consider slow and lumbering. Let's hope those words don't come back and bite me. My main goal in each wave is to identify and isolate the strongest enemy, the black ones, and then freeze them. That way I can then focus on the lower level enemies, which are one shot for the most part to the face. Black enemies obviously are stronger. The blue enemies I usually need 2 shots to the face if I can get the shot at the face. And we successfully passed that, and now it's time for Colgera with no Paraglider. And I've never done this before. I did know that I would start on the ground because I've played before, but I was hoping that using the wings that I've gotten, especially the Gibdo wings, that I'd be able to shoot Colgera's weak parts from the ground. That did not work, and if you use Key's eyeballs they don't activate. But it doesn't matter, I died by standing in Gloom. I decided it was better to use a Paraglider. Let me try and just finish this challenge once, and then I can always go back and try in a different way. I also decided that I did not want to deal with the frustration of going back and forth with the army each time I die at any bosses, so I wanted to get Autobuild and build my favorite device that my kids and I came up with on our playthrough that makes going through the army a breeze. We grab Autobuild, you do not have to fight Master Koga, and then we head back to the surface. Remember, I have all the things that I've collected, horns and weapons, leading up to when you jump down to the army. You can teleport before you jump down, so that's how I was able to go and get Autobuild. Come back here, and that means I now have much stronger weapons to fight the Lynel. That silver Lizalfos horn, clutch. I'm figuring that the white main Lynel parts, especially that saber horn, is going to be very important in the final fight. So, working my little wooden shield and doing what I can do. This is not a multi-shot bow. It is a lot harder to hit a Lynel in the face. I really hit him in the chin with a single bow, but I managed to pull it off. And guess what? We killed the Lynel, but he took out my shield. That kill was very satisfying, and now I'm super pumped to continue. And then I remember that I did not build what I need to build and save in Autobuild. So it's time to head to the mountain just above Outskirts Stable, where we can visit our little Goron friend that has that bell ringing minigame, because he has what I need. Now that my elevated fort with a spinning killing device is ready, I head back for a second round of deaths or success. Use Dazzle Fruit to buy me some time to build this contraption, and then it's time to head for safety. I had enough Zonite to build it between the main cave at Red Sky Island and breaking those Zonite rocks, and then of course the enemies that we kill on the way here also drop Zonite. I would normally have a beam emitter on here as well, and so there was a beam emitter where the wing was. I added an apple to it, saved it to Autobuild, and now I can build 2 beam emitters to also add to the spinning wheel. But the flame emitters were already in my inventory from GSI. It was a little tricky to figure out how to add it to the wheel while staying safely in my fort, but I was able to do it and do it consistently. And this build made sure that I could consistently complete the army without using much weapon durability, so my weapons would last even longer. The only problem with the Moblins was that I often was not able to pick up all the arrows they dropped because they would despawn. There is a 21 item limit, as you know, in the game, and so I was lacking in arrows. But guess what? Time for the Lizalfos. You can just run away from them and quickly climb up. Sometimes I'd get hit, but in most cases I didn't get hit. The only concern with the Gibdos are the flying ones. It is rare for my spinning device to actually hit them. Sometimes they would come low enough for flames to hit them. And thankfully their green vomit does not penetrate the walls, so I'm safe in there and they don't fly high enough to spit into the room. I just have to jump out and activate bullet time, fire some arrows to the face. The slow Moblins obviously should not be a problem to get past, but they spawn right around the device, so it was a little tricky to get there, but I managed to survive without getting hit. And now for the Colgera rematch, but this time I have the Paraglider. And I have a triple shot bow, thanks to killing the Lynel. Those Aerocuda that I killed on the way to Outskirts Stable, those are coming in very handy, so I'm not just dependent on the Gibdo wings in case I do miss a few shots. But I don't miss. Now for phase 2. I could just dive through his weak points when he fires the icicles into the air, but I decided that it's not that much from a bow durability standpoint, and I'd rather just get it done as quickly as possible instead of waiting for him to attack, especially when the tornadoes are coming. Colgera is one of the few bosses that always has the same 600 HP whenever you fight it, whether at the Wind Temple, in the depths, or fighting here in the boss rush. Marbled Gohma was the boss I was least worried about, which you know that means is going to come back and bite me. But Marbled Gohma only has 2000 HP, so it's as if you are fighting it as the 4th temple boss. It actually is weaker than if it was a final temple boss you'd fight. It's the same health as if you were fighting it in the depths. So 2000 HP. Figured this was going to be very straightforward. I wanted to move the fight along quickly, so I was going to use Gibdo bones and the triple shot bow, wanting to keep as much durability as possible though for the fight against Queen Gibdo, which was the fight I was most concerned about. Pretty simple. It did take me 2 tries. I stayed up there too long and got greedy once. So that was the second run to kill Marble Gohma. And now we move to Mucktorok. Possibly the most annoying boss fight in this game, just because he runs around. But I was ready. I fused the opal to the royal broadsword, but I was saving that for the second phase of the fight. The first phase I was going to use a bow and the regular choo-choo that we had gotten on the way down. And there's also a hydrant that was by the rockets and the wing where the construct head was. So I made a hydrant shield, and as you can see, it comes in clutch for the wave. This is not low gravity, I cannot jump over it. Mucktorok has 1950 HP when he's a final boss. It's interesting because he has 900 more HP in the depths. He has 2850. So this is actually an easier fight. And this health for Mucktorok is the same as if you were fighting him as the 4th boss. So if 3 bosses had been defeated and you fight him 4th, this is the same health that he would have, just like Marbled Gohma. We are on to the second phase of the fight. The sludge is everywhere, but I have an opal sword, and of course I have the hydrant. The opal sword only shoots 1 water bubble, but it's good enough for me to hit him. And then I use Keith's eyeballs when he jumps. I don't need to try and shoot him in the air, just use the Keith's eyeball and have the homing arrows take him out. Goodbye Mucktorok. And now for Queen Gibdo, the boss that I was most worried about. Those electric Keith's eyeballs are going to come in very, very clutch. The core thing with her is her HP, 3178. It's the same as if she was the 4th boss also that you were fighting in temples. This is more health than in the depths. In the depths she has 2800 HP, so this is actually one of the harder fights that you would face. I was never worried going in with this phase 1. Her fight is not complicated with phase 1. Phase 2 with the Gibdos was going to be more of a problem. As you can see, I have my rocket shield out because I'm going to be using that for phase 2. The important thing is once you get damage on Queen Gibdo and she gets up, she's going to run straight at you. So I always run away from her and then immediately turn perpendicular once you start running, because she does not change direction. She runs in a straight line. My plan for phase 2 was to get up on top of the mushrooms and then take them out from there. And that is Queen Gibdo down. So now for the Siege Construct. Siege Construct is like Colgera, a fixed amount of health whenever you fight it. In this case it's 20,000 HP. Some players don't realize that it's not about doing damage via your weapon. You could use any weapon. And the point is to knock it against the fence. That is how you get the most damage done. Again, because I've done this fight so many times, I was overconfident going in. So this is the first time getting to the Siege Construct. And when you are overconfident and think an enemy is easy, you know what happens. I ran out of arrows in the middle of the fight. Not good. By now I had been at this for a few hours and I just wanted to get it over with. So I went back to the southern Hyrule Sky archipelago. I went to a different island that also has fairies. So there are 3 fairies for me to pick up. Remember I already used 2 before I got the paraglider. There also is a magic rod, so I grabbed the magic rod from the chest and could fuse an opal to it. And then the idea was to keep going between day and night on GSI and then picking up arrows, buying arrows in Lookout Landing. And that would not add to my percentage completion because I had already visited. And guess what? There was a blood moon, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because all the enemies on the way back to the depths respawn. So I have to refight the silver Lizalfos, the black Lizalfos. The good thing is that the white main Lynel respawns. That means I could have 2 triple shot bows. Hello there, it's me again. This fight was going to be even easier this time around because I had a Lynel weapon. We had his saber horn fused to a royal sword. And of course, we had a triple shot bow that made it much easier to hit him in the chin. Using the weapon on his back does not use durability. I grabbed it and then I actually went back to Lookout Landing to do some fuses and cook some additional meals. This knight's broadsword is my emergency weapon, doubles damage when you're down to 1 heart. So if I ran out of meals and could not heal, I would switch to this weapon and use that for as long as possible, most likely in the final fight with Ganon. After thinking I'm well stocked, I head back down for what I hope is the last time. I breeze through the army and the Colgera fight. The Marble Gohma and Queen Gibdo were the same as before, but I did change the strategy for Mucktorok using the opal fuse magic rod that shoots 3 water bubbles. It made the fight a lot easier. And then for the siege construct, I wanted to use as few arrows as possible for phase 1. I fused a flame emitter to my mighty Zonite shield that I had picked up in the depths on the way to the fight. And it was a lot safer, a lot simpler. This was the first time that we had gotten to phase 2 of the siege construct, and I knew that Phanton Ganon was next, and after that I would finally have a save point, so I was tense. It was actually easier than phase 1, no reason to be tense, but now for the big test. My original plan for this fight was to use a rocket shield to launch and then shoot 1 ruby out of the 2 that I'd have and to take out as many as possible, but I decided against that and saved the rocket shield for Ganon. And now this is where the royal swords are coming in because they do additional damage. I believe it's 30% more when you activate a Flurry Rush. I took a lot more damage than I expected in this fight. Thankfully it wasn't Gloom damage, so I could just eat the food that I had cooked. I used more food than I'd wanted to, but I just wanted to get to the save point. So I honestly did not care. For phase 2, there's 1 Phantom Ganon that spreads gloom everywhere, and so whenever you see him spreading gloom, you have to take him out. So I saved a ruby exactly for this start, so I could deal significant damage to a number of the Phantom Ganons. I've found it hard to fight against the Gloom Club wielding Phantom Ganons, but somehow I managed to get 2 Fairy Rushes in quick succession and delete 2 Phantom Ganons quickly. I'm making sure to look out for the Gloom spreading Phantom and take him out as quickly as possible. And now it's time for spears. The spears are the easiest ones to avoid. Timing could be a little off, but I think those are the easiest ones. They always are stabbing at you. You don't have to jump any other way besides to the side. Just time it properly. And this guy leaves the fight and decides to spread Gloom. I'm waiting to be attacked and I get fed up, so I just shoot him in the face and shoot the other one in the face as well. Let's just get this over with and get my save point. Finally. I still have Fairies, and it was so nice of those Phantom Ganon to drop their weapons. I was hopeful there would be a club, but the clubs despawned and I only have spears and swords. So I attach one spear and one sword to royal weapons that I have. I'm using them as an attachment. It does give us that boost of damage. Unfortunately, the durability is going to be horrible, but I don't care about durability. I have enough weapons and I have my Lynel Reapers to do the real damage. So let's see how this goes. It's time for the final fight. Can I do it in one go? Well, I ran out of regular food and had to eat my cold resistance food, but it worked. That went smoothly, and that was the phase I was most worried about because of the additional phantoms. Now we go 1v1. I was so confident here that he was dead that I removed my Hylian hood so that in the cutscene you could see Link's face. And guess what? I messed up. I can't believe I pulled this off. First try going to the Demon King. Got it done. And all I want to see now is what the percentage is. I have no worries about dealing with this dragon. Now for the moment of truth.